This is the highest spec of the rugged phones that I've ever tested out. And it's from Ulefone. It's the Armor 28 Ultra Thermal Edition, this model. So it's got a thermal imaging camera, some rear 50 megapixel cameras, ultra wide main camera, 64 megapixel night vision camera with infrared light, and a very rugged build quality. It's military grade drop resistance. We've got an IP 68 and 69K rating to this, and it has a 1080p screen, 120 Hertz. But here's where the specs get very good for this style of phone. 120 watt charging. It's powered by the Dimensity 9300 Plus. It's got 16 gigabytes of RAM and a terabyte of UFS 4.0 storage, and even 50 watt wireless charging, plus micro SD card support, FM radio, 3.5mm headphone jack, IR transmitter. This phone pretty much has it all, as you'll see in this review of the Armor 28 Ultra Thermal.
And these are some of the accessories you can get for the Armor 28 Ultra. Even though it's a case itself, the phone, you can get this case, which is a hard style plastic, so very solid. And you'll see we've got a clip here, and that's located here, so you just need to slide that into place. That's your belt clip, and you also have this other clip too as well if you wanted to use this different style for it. So a very strong looking case, and the practicality that you can just slot it onto a belt. Universal tactical phone pouch too, so you can have this set up as upright or sideways. And this is maybe another accessory that people may like, maybe tradesmen or people that like to have it on your belt. You slot it in. So we've got that hook right there. This is where you slot the phone into it. You can tighten up those straps here. That has Velcro, and you can put it either upright or side on if that's your style of having it on your belt. Then included with the phone, tempered glass screen protector, user manual and some other paperwork and stuff, SIM tray tool, a strap, 120 watt power delivery charger, and then a Type-C to Type-C cable. So great to have these included. All right, so our Armor 25 Ultra Thermal Edition here, it's very chunky. It's quite a heavy phone like they all are. So 450 grams, and the thickness of it, this is quite a bit. 19.4 millimeters. Now it's got a metal frame around the outside of this. It's drop resistant too. So military standard, this is 810H compliant. So drops of around 2 meters it can handle. IP68, IP69K. So dust tight, water resistant, as long as you have this in place, which of course is the gasket that covers the Type-C port. Now it has video out. This is the highest spec of these rugged phones that I've ever tested in the channel. Downwards firing loudspeaker, and here we have a microphone. Now it's only a single loudspeaker. There is no stereo speakers in this. Even though we have the earpiece at the top, it does not double as a speaker, which is a little bit unfortunate because it looks like there's a speaker port here, but no. IR, and then under this flap here, 3.5mm. You've got FM radio too as well, so great to see this. And there is SD card support, micro SD with the side. So you just pull it right out here. If you've got long enough fingernails, you have the 2 nano SIMs and the micro SD on the other side. So really good to see here. Now we have a button. You can use a quick launch button to just to launch dedicated applications, a shortcut key for that. Pogo port pin for other accessories we can use for this. And here a dedicated camera button too. Capacitive fingerprint reader. This works well, probably the best that I have seen out of the rugged phones. And the screen 6.67 inches, 120 hertz. This is a full HD plus resolution, and I'll get onto a little bit more about that screen shortly. And here at the back, there is another screen here. So we have this one that's on the back, and you can set it up to be like an always on display. So they have the little widget here. So this secondary screen is 1.04 inches. It's got a 340 by 340 resolution to it, so it looks pretty good. And this is an AMOLED screen here too, just like the main screen. So we've got the calendar right there. I can launch the camera, and that's it. So the camera's on the back. You can see there's a lot going on here because we do have that thermal imaging camera on there too. So we've got the infrared light, thermal imaging camera, dual tone LED flash, a 64 megapixel night vision camera. It's f1.8 main camera, which is 50 megapixels, and then an ultra wide, this one here at the top, which is 50 megapixels too there as well. So this is all rubber. It's a really chunky, solid phone, as you'd expect, that this could also double as a weapon. If someone was attacking you or trying to mug you, well, you could just wield this phone and fend them off. It's that really heavy and solid. Front-facing camera, this is 50 megapixels, and the bezels you can see are not going to win any awards for being the slimmest. And I wouldn't want super slim bezels on what is supposed to be a drop-resistant phone either, because if they were too close to the edge, they would have a higher risk then, tendency to break or crack the screen. And this is covered with Gorilla Glass Victus. So we have inside this, what's powering it all, the Dimensity 9300 Plus. It's a very good chipset for this type of phone. And I have here with this version, a terabyte of storage, which again, excellent. The specs being the highest as mentioned that I've ever seen on these kind of phones. Now the screen, this has a peak brightness of up to 2200 nits, but the high brightness mode is 900. It is a bright screen, and I'll show you that we've got a good option in here that you don't often see, even with a lot of flagships. That's 90 Hertz. Let me just tone down this brightness. It is so bright. I probably need to turn off automatic brightness. And that is the 90 Hertz option, which is a good combination of fluidity and some battery savings. So I've toned it right down. So it does go very dim. I wish it was a little bit dimmer than that. And then on the maximum setting, as you can see now in direct sunlight, it's perfectly legible. And this is one thing I haven't been able to say about the other rugged phones I've covered in the channel, because they've always been too dull in direct sunlight, but not the Armor 28 Ultra here. They're doing something right, Ulefone. Really no bloatware that is pre-installed. We've got a couple of apps on there that they have Ulefone put there because it's part of the phone. So for example, the thermal view app there. So we have, of course, that thermal vision. I'll get onto that a little bit later in the video. Now, free storage, we get a lot. I mean, it's a terabyte. And then you're only using here 18 gigabytes because it's such a lightweight ROM. It doesn't have a lot of bloat compared to others, which can be normally about another 5 or 6 gigabytes more in size their ROM, but no, not here. It does have a wideband level cert, so if you're worried about watching Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Disney Plus being only in standard definition, no, it is in full HD, which is excellent. A lot of these phones don't even bother with that certification for DRM for your streaming, but they've got that here, Ulefone. Performance, over 2 million points, so this is great. It's flagship performance, very high spec for this type of phone, and that really does show in the performance. Now, charging performance, 120 watts. This is something that I wouldn't expect to see in this type of phone, and it is amazing to have. So we've got a very large battery capacity, 10,600 milliamp hours, and it charges it in a really good speed here. So just 67 minutes. And the estimated capacity, that and Tutu's calculated, not far off, because you normally have like this being the maximum claimed capacity, then a typical capacity would be a little bit less, and that's what it is here, but still very good. This phone will last most people for 3-4 days with standard kind of use. Now, continual use with this battery benchmark, it went for very good time here, a very good time of 14 hours and 12 minutes. And that was forced to 120 Hertz. If you use 60 Hertz, then this result here will be even better. Probably something like 17 hours of screen on time, or 16. Absolutely phenomenal battery life if that's what you're after. But the trade-off is, yeah, a chunky, heavy 450 gram phone. So to me, this is clearly a phone that's maybe for hunters, because it's got the night vision thermal imaging camera to try and see warmer areas where perhaps some animals are hiding out, whatnot. But then for tradesmen that you may be working with insulation, you want to know if you've missed any gaps, or you're hunting to find the weak points in a house where the insulation is, or you do, say, air conditioning, heating in stalls, we've got this camera here. So thermal view works very well. You'll see it pause now and then as it keeps calibrating itself. That's normal. And there's a lot of options here. You can see the hot points, cold points, record video, take photos. And they do even have some videos on there themselves, but I've taken some of them myself. And I'll just show you just a couple of short examples on screen now. So this is one here of my cat Vera, and you can see areas that are warmer, and even as she walks along, the little warm paw pad marks that are left behind on the cold tiles. You can see that kind of detail from it, so it's very good. And then other ones here of just boiling some water. Clearly you can see up to 100 degrees there. Measuring seems to be quite accurate. And in a room to find the cooler areas, which was around the window here. So it's got a lot of practical uses, especially if this is your trade and you need something like this. Now, no surprises here with that chipset. That Genshin Impact on the top settings is really playable, nice and smooth. You do occasionally in some areas get a few little frame dips, but that is common with this game. Otherwise, performance, excellent. All the games in the Play Store will be perfectly playable, and you can even use high settings too with games like Genshin Impact on the absolute highest settings, set to 60 frames per second. Now, voice calls on this have been fine. The haptics is average, nothing amazing, and loudspeaker only single. So this is, for me, the biggest fault of the phone is why doesn't it have stereo loudspeakers? Probably to do with that IP rating that they just couldn't do this, and they found it was better to just have one single speaker. Now, it has a little bit of bass to it. The volume is okay, as you'll hear from the sample I'm going to play now at 100% volume. Over to our cameras now with the Armor 28 thermal edition, thermal version. This is 50 megapixels of front-facing camera, and it does not seem to have any electronic image stabilization. There's no 4K with this front-facing camera. So the quality here, it's all right. I can see there's a little bits of parts being overexposed, so it could be better and could definitely do with that electronic image stabilization. 4K with our rear 50 megapixel sensor. Can't seem to swap over to the ultra wide for video. There isn't an option to do this because when I pinch to try and zoom out to pull out, no, it won't let me do that. I can only just push it in. So that means just digital zoom there is all I can apply. It does have electronic image stabilization, unlike that front facing camera. Seems to be quite aggressive electronic image stabilization. And as I pan around, there is a delayed effect there when I do move. That's how aggressive that electronic image stabilization is. Some samples now. It can take a good photo. The Armor 28 Ultra Thermal. You can see from these samples that I'm showing you in daylight, it looks all right. The ultra wide is okay. A little bit of over sharpening is being applied, and portrait shots, the stitching could be better. Now we do have night vision with the infrared and the IR lights there, and it can take an okay shot. Low light performance, not amazing, but I will say this, it's better than all the other chunky style phones, these rugged phones that I've covered.
The price of the phone, for this kind of spec we're getting on offer, with that chipset, the RAM, and the storage capacity, doesn't come cheap. We're looking at $900 US. Now, if you absolutely must have the best performance in one of these rugged phones, you want that battery life, the battery capacity, you need all those kind of features, and the thermal imaging camera, perhaps that comes in handy for your kind of work that you do as a tradesman, then this is the phone to get. The downsides that I have discovered with the phone are the fact that it's got a mono speaker only, so no stereo loudspeakers. For most people, that's probably not really going to be an issue. No front-facing 4K video, no electronic image stabilization with front-facing video either. For a lot of people, they probably won't be too fussed about that either. And the UI being, well, Android 14 based and not 15 that it is starting out with. So I don't know if it's going to be getting Android 15. It's probably unlikely, but we've got amazing performance for this style of rugged phone. The capacitive fingerprint reader works really well. ROM performance is excellent, super smooth as you can imagine with that chipset, and the 16 gigabytes of RAM. Battery life is also very good. This is a phone that you can charge, and depending on the kind of screen time you have during the day, it should go for at least 3-4 days with most people. In my continual test, it got over 14 hours, which is an excellent result there too, but I did expect it to be a little better. However, it does fully charge in just 67 minutes for that 10,600 milliamp hour capacity it has. That is an excellent charging time. So thank you so much for watching my review of the Ulefone Armor 28 Ultra Thermal.